I am so excited today to talk to Flint Hills Publishing author Lynn Murphy. Lynn is a brilliant woman who thinks big. Frankly, I see her as a trailblazer. She is the founder of Key Innovative Business Solutions, a successful consulting company that teaches people in the workplace how to use interpersonal skills to be more positive and productive. So far, Lynn has published two books with Flint Hills Publishing, Seven Keys to Improving Your Customer Service, a quick and easy to read guide for anyone who works in customer service, and her second book, 50 Life Lessons from Inspiring Women, which is the first project of an important platform Lynn is building. A few years ago, Lynn was hit with a lightning bolt of inspiration. She started a project called Women Who Push the Limits. I'm going to let her talk about it because it truly is her passion project. So Lynn, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. And one of the interesting things that I have noticed about you is that you have many times called yourself a reluctant author. Well, clearly you overcame any reluctance because you are now a published author. So what do you mean by that? And how did you overcome it?
Thanks, Thea, and thank you for interviewing me today. Love this conversation. I hear other authors, amazing authors who started journaling when they were 5 years old and they always wanted to be a writer. And you've got some of those in your publishing house. And I hear those people all the time. I never wanted to be a writer. The worst grade I ever got in college was in English literature. It's like, I could conjugate verbs all day, but I didn't want to be a writer. And it took my business coach, whom I worked with for almost 25 years, to really encourage me. She kept telling me, "You're a good writer." And I said, "How do you know this?" And she says, "Well, your emails and when I see things that you've written." And she kept telling me to write blogs, telling me to journal, all this. And maybe I'd do it for a few days, but that was it. And then she told me, "Okay, write a book about customer service," because that's what I was teaching. So I started the one which you eventually published. Thank you very much. And just got bored with it. Everybody's writing customer service. Who am I to write a customer service book? And finally, in 2018, she and I were talking about the midterm elections. And politics is a little bit of a hot button for me. and she said, "Okay, you don't want to write about customer service. What are you interested in?" And I said, "I'm interested in all these amazing women who are running for office, who are in politics, who are in leadership positions, doing amazing things." And out of that came the idea to interview 50 women who push the limits. And the group of women is very diverse in there, but it was such an exciting experience. A little bit of that imposter syndrome, like, who am I to write this? But it's been an amazing experience, and I'm just so grateful that you've been part of this.
Oh, well, Lynn, I'm very excited about your project. And I will say, I talk to a lot of authors who they do kind of get in their way. They have important messages for the world, and that imposter syndrome, can kind of creep up on you. But I tell people, the world needs to hear what you have to say. And really, isn't it kind of ego or, we don't have time for that in the world that we're living in now. We need to hear those messages. And I was so excited with your platform because, frankly, I'm going to use the F word. You and I are huge feminists. It's a word we need to take back. It's a very important word. And I see this as a very important project to empower women. And it's the female energy that we need to have in politics, in our economy, in the world. So thank you for this. Tell us a little bit more about what your vision is for Women Who Push the Limits and where you're going, because I know that there is another project in the works.
Well, let me tell you a little bit about the first one. And the group of women I interviewed just kind of showed up. People always ask me, where did you find all these women? And it was absolutely the universe providing this. Some of the women I knew, some of them I got to know a lot better when I interviewed them. And in fact, several of the women whom I had known before said to me toward the end of these interviews, "I don't usually tell people what I just told you." And so it was really exciting to dig deeper into the conversation, because I think every woman's got a story or two or 20. And, you know, it doesn't matter if the woman is well known, if she's only known in her circle. And I've got women from all those different, you know, from one end of that spectrum to the other. But they all have important stories to tell that are going to appeal to certain people. And, you know, what you're talking about, the imposter syndrome, I had to just say, there's an audience for my book. And I don't care who's done what, who I am. I know there's an audience and I trust that. And when I have people say to me, "Oh, picked up your book and I read this chapter and this chapter really spoke to me," you know, that's heartwarming. And I know there are dozens or hundreds of women out there who I will never hear from, but you know, it's so gratifying because I think women and men need to hear women's stories. So,
You know, I agree with you, Lynn, and I'm so impressed and just excited about the different women who, as you say, the universe has brought to you. So, and I know it's like asking, you know, well, who's your favorite child or your favorite dog? But I know you don't have favorites, but are there some people that, you know, just come to mind now that you might want to mention, who are some of the women that you've that you've written about in your book?
well, if I look at the age diversity, one woman I interviewed was 24 years old, and she and her family were immigrants from Colombia when she was 4 years old, and her father was being politically persecuted, and his farm had been burned, and they had to get out of there. And she's a non-binary woman who's just delightful and making her way in this world and exciting. On the other end of that age spectrum is Anne Lorimer, who at 89 years old was the oldest person, not the oldest woman, the oldest person to summit Mount Kilimanjaro, over 18,000 feet. You know, so that kind of a spectrum is very interesting. There are women from Australia, South Africa, Canada, United States. Got to be friends with a woman in South Africa who's an engineer. I had the very amazing privilege of interviewing Victoria Valentino, who is a Cosby survivor, and she's in the news a lot now. And Sandra D. Robinson, who was a TV star, daytime soaps for years. And then, you know, women who've started businesses, women who've had issues. There was one about forgiveness with her family. There are just so many different stories in there. And what I loved is that each story was unique. You know, it, like I said, it speaks to different people. So it was just amazing. Like you say, I don't have any favorites. I love them all. They're kind of like my family, like my little chicklings. I feel very close to all of them, and just was so grateful that they opened up and that they shared so much with me.
Mm. Well, Lynn, clearly you're so passionate about this project, and I know it's been very meaningful for you. But what is your hope, your intention that this book will share with the reader? What do you want the reader to experience?
I want the reader to be able to pick out something, at least one thing that speaks to them. And our motto is find your voice, speak your truth, change the world. And that's what I want the reader to do as a result of this book, is something to stimulate, to inspire her or him to find their voice, speak their truth, and change the world. And, you know, whether that's a huge change, whether it's a small change, do something, take action, you know, get inspired to do something with that.
Well, and you certainly inspire me, and I do want to share with people a cool secret about you. Well, it's not really a secret. You are a tech wizard. You inspire me with your technological abilities, and you and I have worked together. I want to thank you for all of the tech support you've given me for other Flint Hills Publishing authors. You've been there for our Zoom events. You're going to be coming to Kansas with me this April as we promote Elizabeth Farnsworth's new novella, Last Light. You have you just are such a wonderful example of helping other people, reaching out, and I just personally just thank you for that so much. You've been such an inspiration and such a dear help to me. um, Tell us
Thank you.
about, oh, you're welcome.
Well,
Tell us
and
about your
I
go
have to
ahead.
say, Thea, it's an honor to be working with you. And I've told you this before, and I want to tell our audience, this book would not have been published if I hadn't connected with you, that you
Oh,
helped make it happen. So thank you.
Well, it was meant to be.
It
I
was
love our little mutual admiration fandom we got going on here.
definitely.
One thing that always happens to authors, you publish a book, you publish another book, and people are saying, what are you working on now? So, Ms. Murphy, what are you working on now?
Well, again, the universe showed up, and I'd been hearing from different people and guides and things that I needed to do something that had more diversity, which, another one of my hot buttons between politics and human rights and that type of thing. And I met this amazing woman on one of my masterminds who is now actually just had a birthday. She's now 76 years old. And she transitioned when she was 67 years old. She had known from the time she was 3 years old that she was a girl, even though outwardly her body showed up as a boy. And she talks about this, suppressing it for so many years and what her transition was like. So that started me on a journey interviewing her. We're going to have multiple podcasts and we'll feed the book. I want to talk to parents of transgender children, no matter what age they are. And I've got some of those interviews set up already. Just expanding my view, starting with what Wendy Cole has introduced me to and expanding out. So we're starting out calling it Demystifying the Transgender Journey. And I don't know if that's going to be the book, that's going to be the name of our podcast, but, see who shows up and explore for people who, cis people like you and me, who really are not that familiar with what goes on in the LGBTQ community and even the trans community and the lesbian and gay community don't really understand each other. So I want to be someone who puts this out to educate people. And again, to make a difference. I get so frustrated with all these laws that are being passed that are so inhumane to transgender people. And I want this book and the podcasts to be able to educate people and help them see what amazing human beings these people are. And, help us learn, help us connect.
Lynn, there are lots and lots of authors with lots and lots of projects. And I'm fortunate enough with Flint Hills Publishing that I get to be really picky about the projects that I take. And I'm so motivated to share uplifting messages that show that we are all one, we are all connected, and that we need to lift the vibe of the earth through our books and our messages, our speaking, the podcast, etc. And I just want to commend you for this new project. Here we are, two women of a certain age. I think it's so important that we understand all of these issues. And I see in my own home state of Kansas, the Attorney General just last week, Chris Kobach, put out a terrible edict, asking schools to report to parents. It's a very complex issue, but for me, it is a matter of human rights and equality. So thank you for helping us to understand this important issue. And I just know you have my full support in this project, and I'm excited for you to get going with it. So thank you for talking to me today. Can you tell everybody how they can find you and stay in touch with you?
Well, thank you, Thea. The website is womenwhopushthelimits.com, and look for my Facebook page. We've got a wonderful group on Women Who Push the Limits on Facebook. Just agree to our rules on that. And we post inspiring things, post things that are uplifting, like you say. So join that group and go to my website. You'll find my contact information there. And if you want to connect, send me some information. If you want to be interviewed or you want me to consider you for the book, for a podcast, or know someone who would be perfect to go in this next project, send me an email. I'll get that and I'll respond to you. So thanks so much, Thea. It's been wonderful. And thank you for your support for this project. That is helping me immensely.
Well, it's my honor. And thank you, Lynn. And get busy writing. I want to get that next book going.
I'm not as reluctant anymore. You've gotten me over that. And you kept telling me the first time you said, the book is in you, just get it out. And that helped me a lot. So thank you for all of that.
Thank you. Okay, see you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.